Standard.
Standard.
Students have to reach a certain standard or they won't pass. The airline has rigorous safety standards.
The committee is assessing the standard of care in local hospitals.
The recent decline in moral standards.
Standards have slipped since I was a boy. An official government standard for the purity of silver. Popular jazz standards.
The Royal Standard.
We paid them the standard rate.
Searching luggage at airports is now standard practice. The format is fairly standard.
We make shoes in standard and wide sizes.
All these vans are made to a standard design.
The standard spelling.
Standard English pronunciation.
Standard bearer.
Standard bearer.
Standard deviation.
Standard deviation.
Standard grade.
Standard grade.
Standard issue.
Standard issue.
Standardize.
Standardize.
Attempts to standardize English spelling have never been successful.
Standardize tests.
Standard lamp.
Standard lamp.
Standard of living.
Standard of living.
A nation with a high standard of living.
Standard time.
Standard time.
Standby.
Standby.
A special team of police were kept on standby.
We can put you on standby.
Powdered milk is a good standby in an emergency.
Standby time.
Standby time.
Stand-in.
Stand-in.
Gilbert failed to find a stand-in and so could not go to the party.
A stand-in for Tom Cruise.
Standing.
Standing.
You have to pay standing charges whether or not you use the service.
A standing committee was established to coordinate the Army and Navy.
The runners set off from a standing start.
The whole incident became a standing joke between us.
Barb's work helped to improve her standing with her colleagues.
The scandal damaged the governor's standing in the polls.
A lawyer of high standing.
An arrangement of several years' standing.
Standing order.
Standing order.
Standing room.
Standing room.
There was standing room only in the courthouse.
Standoff.
Standoff.
Standoffish.
Standoffish.
She was cold and standoffish.
Standout.
Standout.
The standout track on the album. He was a standout in last Saturday's game.
Standpipe.
Standpipe.
Standpoint.
Standpoint.
Let's look at the questions from an economic standpoint.
A discussion of marriage from the standpoint of women.
Standstill.
Standstill.
Strike has brought production to a standstill.
Traffic was at a standstill.
Stand up. Stand up.
A stand-up comedian.
We had a stand-up buffet.
If it came to a stand-up fight, I wouldn't have a chance.
A photo in a stand-up frame. A stand-up collar.
Mark used to do stand-up at Roxy's bar. Stank.
Stank.
The Stanley Cup.
Stanley Cup.
Stanley knife.
Stanley knife.
Stanza.
Stanza.
Staple.
Staple.
Staples like flour and rice. Bananas and sugar are the staples of Jamaica.
The handouts are all stapled together.
I stapled the order form to the invoice.
Oil is Nigeria's staple export.
A staple ingredient of comedy.
They live on a staple diet of rice and vegetables.
Television's staple diet of soap operas and quiz shows.
Marty's staple excuses.
Staple gun.
Staple gun.
Stapler.
Stapler.
Star.
Star.
I lay on my back and looked up at the stars.
The sky was filled with stars.
The stars were shining.
The stars were all out.
The stars were twinkling overhead, sitting around a campfire under the stars. By the age of 20, she was already a big star. He is a rising star in the music world.
She's a good actress, but she lacks star quality.
Ray Grimes, the star of the television series Brother John.
Laporte, as Ebenezer Scrooge, is undoubtedly the star of the show.
Shamu, the killer whale, is the show's star attraction. The team's star player.
The school's star pupil.
The star columnist of the Sunday Times.
I put a star next to the items that we still need to buy.
A 4-star general.
A 2-star hotel.
I never read my stars. Their marriage was surely written in the stars.
I felt a little dizzy and could see stars.
Thanks, Mel. You're a real star. Eastwood starred in The Good, the Bad and the Ugly.
DeVito stars opposite Dreyfuss in the movie.
Hugh Grant stars as the romantic hero.
The Freshman was Brando's first starring role in 10 years.
A film starring Meryl Streep.
The movie starred Orson Welles as Harry Lime.
The starred items are available.
Star anise.
Star anise. Starboard.
Starboard.
Starch.
Starch.
He eats a lot of starch. Avoid fatty foods and starches. Avoid fatty foods and starches.
A starched tablecloth.
Star chamber.
Star chamber.
Starchy.
Starchy.
Starchy foods.
She spoke in a rather starchy manner.
Star-crossed.
Star-crossed.
Star-crossed lovers.
Stardom.
Stardom.
His rapid rise to stardom.
Ellen shot to stardom as a model last year.
Stardust.
Stardust.
Stare.
Stare.
What are you staring at?
She stared at me in disbelief.
She sat there staring into space.
The solution was staring me right in the face all along.
Defeat was staring us in the face.
She gave him a long, hard stare.
She laughed, ignoring the stares of everyone around her.
His pleas were met by a blank stare.
Starfish.
Starfish.
Starfruit.
Starfruit.
Stargazer.
Stargazer.
Starjump.
Star jump.
Stark.
Stark.
In the cold dawn light, the castle looks stark and forbidding.
The stark beauty of New Mexico.
The movie shows the stark realities of life in the ghetto.
The extreme poverty of the local people is in stark contrast to the wealth of the tourists. We are faced with a stark choice. A stark reminder of life under communist rule. Ben was standing there stark naked.
He's gone stark raving mad.
Starkers.
Starkers.
Starless.
Starless.
A starless night.
Starlet.
Starlet.
Starlight.
Starlight.
Starling.
Starling.
Starlit.
Starlit.
A starlit night.
Star of David.
Star of David.
Starry.
Starry.
A starry winter sky.
White starry flowers.
Starry-eyed.
Starry-eyed.
Stars and stripes.
The Stars and Stripes.
Star sign.
Star sign.
Star-Spangled Banner.
Star-spangled banner.
Star-studded.
Star-studded.
A star-studded cast.
Start.
Start.
There's so much to do, I don't know where to start.
Have you started your homework?
Then the baby started crying. It's starting to rain.
He got up and started running again.
I'd better get started soon.
What Kerry said started me thinking.
What time does the film start?
Lightning started a fire that burnt 500 acres.
The party was just getting started when Sarah arrived.
You have 2 hours to complete the test, starting now.
A healthy breakfast is a good way to start the day.
The festivities started with a huge fireworks display.
The restaurant started as a small takeout place.
Any new exercise program should start slowly.
Chow starts by explaining some basic legal concepts.
She wanted to start her own catering business. When can you start?
I started college last week.
The car wouldn't start this morning.
He couldn't get his motorbike started.
We'll have to start early to get there by lunchtime.
She started as a dancer in the 1950s.
It's difficult for new lawyers to get started in private practice.
The trail starts immediately behind the hotel.
The race will start at the town hall.
Room prices start from £25 a night. There were no textbooks, so the teachers had to start from scratch.
I started a fire to warm the place up.
Oh, don't go trying to start an argument.
Other girls were starting rumours about me.
I was pretty nervous to start with, but after a while I was fine.
There are problems. To start with, neither of us likes housework.
A lot of people who lose weight gain it back over time and end up back where they started. Astacio started for the Dodgers on Tuesday night.
We're not ready to start a family yet.
She saw her new job as a chance to start afresh. Don't hit her. But she started it. It looks like Jess is trying to start something. A loud knock at the door made her start.
Emma started from her chair and rushed to the window.
Wood started young and was coached by his father.
Mum, I don't like this ice cream. Oh, don't you start.
I started back down the mountain to camp.
I decided to just start in and see what I could do.
Lily started in on her burger.
Mom turned away from Rose and started in on me. The theatre company started off their new season with a Shakespeare play.
I started off by drawing the flowers I had collected.
The puppies start off white and get their black spots later.
The games start off as a social event, but players soon become competitive.
I started off as a drummer.
We're not sure what starts the process off.
He started me off with some stretching exercises. I sat in the car for a few minutes before starting off.
She started off to school in her new uniform.
Don't say that. That'll just start him off. He made her jump, and that started her off giggling. You'd better start on your homework. Try starting your baby on solid foods at 4 months old. Ray's wife started on at him about spending too much time in the pub.
The Star started out as a small weekly newspaper.
The leaves start out a pale green and later get darker.
When the band first started out, they played at small clubs. She started out as a model. Young couples starting out on their life together.
Oliver started out at 5, when it was still dark.
If you make a mistake, just erase it and start over.
Tax breaks help new companies start up.
Jordan started up a band of his own.
The driver got back into the car and started up.
Rory started up the engine and got the vehicle moving. The crickets had started up now that it was evening.
We arrived late and missed the start of the film.
We've had problems with this project right from the start.
She read the letter from start to finish without looking up.
A free bottle of wine to get your holiday off to a great start. After a rocky start, the show is now very popular.
He wanted an early start on his election campaign.
Since the start of 1992, the company has doubled in size.
The start of an election year.
I'll make a start on the washing up.
Ted woke up with a start and felt for the light switch.
She said his name, and Tom gave a start.
Good health care for the mother before birth gives babies a healthy start.
Naturally, we want to give our kids the best possible start in life.
The horses were all lined up at the start.
The prisoners had a 3-hour start on their pursuers. The prisoners had a 3-hour start on their pursuers.
Well, for a start, the weather was horrible. One exercise class a week isn't enough, but it's a start. One exercise class a week isn't enough, but it's a start.
Pacino got his start on the stage before his success in films.
I gave you your start, so remember me when you win the Pulitzer Prize.
The number of business starts plummeted 10.5% during the second half of the year.
A training course for new starts.
The horse Exotic Wood was unbeaten in 5 starts.
Jackson played in 353 games with 314 starts.
Starter.
Starter.
We had soup as a starter, followed by steak.
Of the 7 starters, only 3 finished the race.
The starter fired his gun.
Well, for starters, you'll need to fill out an application form.
Starter home.
Starter home.
Starter motor.
Starter motor.
Starter pack.
Starter pack.
Starting blocks.
Starting blocks.
Starting gate.
Starting gate.
Starting line.
Starting line.
Starting line.
Starting point.
Starting point.
The article provides a starting point for discussion.
Starting price.
Starting price.
Startle.
Startle.
Sorry, I didn't mean to startle you.
I was startled to see Amanda.
A startled expression.
Startling.
Startling.
Paddy's words had a startling effect on the children.
A startling discovery.
It is startling to read that his father never visited him in hospital.
Startup.
Startup.
Startup costs.
An internet startup.
Starturn.
Star turn.
Starvation.
Starvation.
People dying of starvation.
Starve.
Starve.
Thousands of people will starve if food doesn't reach the city.
Pictures of starving children.
They'll either die from the cold or starve to death.
The poor dog looked like it had been starved.
You must be starving.
The schools are starved of funding.
The poor kids just starved for attention.
If we can't blast them out, we'll starve them out.
Stash.
Stash.
He has money stashed away in the Bahamas. You can stash your gear in here.
Mike went into the bedroom to check on his stash.
A stash of drugs.
Stasis.
Stasis.
State.
State.
There are fears for the state of the country's economy.
When we bought the house, it was in a terrible state.
Frankly, I wouldn't trust his emotional state right now.
She was in an extremely confused state of mind. David's in no fit state to drive.
She can't go home now. Look at the state of her.
The boat was in a good state of repair. The country was in a state of war.
Water exists in 3 states: liquid, gaseous, and solid.
The state has allocated special funds for the emergency.
Limits on salary increases for state workers.
A state-funded community housing project. A NATO member state. Queensland is one of the states of Australia.
The state of Iowa.
The state government. State and federal taxes.
Which part of the states would you suggest I visit? Mum and Dad were in a right state when I got in.
The Queen's first state visit here in 17 years.
Music for state occasions.
I must say this is a very unsatisfactory state of affairs.
What is the state of play in the current negotiations? Please state your name and address.
Rambert again stated his intention to resign from Parliament.
The government needs to clearly state its policy on UN intervention.
The witness stated that he had not seen the woman before.
Fine, but aren't you just stating the obvious here?
The price of the tickets is stated on the back.
State attorney.
State attorney.
State benefit.
State benefit.
State court.
State court.
State department.
State department.
Statehood.
Statehood.
Utah obtained statehood in 1896.
State house.
State house.
Stateless.
Stateless.
Millions of refugees remain stateless.
Stately.
Stately.
The stately progress of the procession.
Stately buildings.
Stately.
Stately.
Stately home.
Stately home.
Statement.
Statement.
In an official statement, she formally announced her resignation.
The Prime Minister's recent statements on Europe.
The company's annual financial statements.
I haven't received my bank statement for last month yet.
The type of car you drive makes a statement about you.
A fashion statement. Presentation and clarity of statement.
Statement.
State of emergency.
State of emergency.
After declaring a state of emergency, the government arrested all opposition leaders.
State of the art.
State of the art.
State-of-the-art technology.
His new laptop is state-of-the-art.
State park.
State park.
Stateroom.
Stateroom.
State school.
State school.
State's evidence.
State's evidence.
Statesman.
Statesman.
A respected elder statesman.
Statesmanlike.
Statesmanlike.
His statesmanlike handling of the crisis.
State trooper.
State trooper.
State university.
State university.
Statewide.
Statewide.
A statewide poll.
A model that could be used in towns statewide.
Static.
Static.
Economists predict that house prices will remain static for a long period.
His promotion has caused a lot of static. Static electricity.
Static electricity.
Statics.
Statics.
Statin. Statin.
Station.
Station.
I want to get off at the next station. Grand Central Station. Is there a waiting room in the station?
The city bus station. A police station. A fire station.
An Antarctic research station.
New York Jazz Station, WBGO.
A local TV station.
Karen was definitely getting ideas above her station.
You're not to leave your station unless told.
An isolated naval station.
I was stationed overseas at the time.
A security guard was stationed near the door.